Apple TV. Apple TV is a digital media player and micro-console developed by Apple that plays received media data, such as video and audio, to a television set or external display. It is an HDMI-compliant source device and can only be connected to an enhanced definition or high-definition widescreen television through HDMI to function. It can only be controlled remotely, either through an Apple remote, a Siri remote, or some third-party infrared remotes. Its media services include streaming media services, casting and mirroring, and sports journalism and broadcasts. Models of the Apple TV. First generation Apple TV. Apple announced the first generation Apple TV in 2006 and released it in March 2007. It was originally announced as iTV to fit into their i-based product naming convention, but was renamed Apple TV before launch due to a trademark dispute with a British broadcasting network, ITV, in the United Kingdom, and they threatened to take legal action against Apple. Some of its features are: it runs on a Pentium M processor and runs a variant of Mac OS X Tiger. Had a 40GB hard disk for storing content, which was later expanded in May 2007 to 160GB. It supported output up to 720p on HD TVs via HDMI. Had a 256 MB 400 MHz DDR2 SDRAM. Silver or white color options. Second generation Apple TV. Apple released the second generation Apple TV in September 2010, which is based on the ARM-based Apple A4 chip instead of an Intel x86 processor and runs a variant of iOS. It is housed in a black enclosure and is 1/4 the size of the first generation model. Some of its features are: 8GB of flash storage for buffering. Had a 256 MB ROM. It supports output up to 720p via HDMI. Third generation Apple TV. Apple announced the third generation Apple TV in March 2012, which is identical to its predecessor in external appearance. But it differs with some internal features, like having an A5 chip with one core deactivated, supporting 1080p video output, and allowing remote access to HomeKit devices. Fourth generation Apple TV. The fourth generation of the Apple TV is also known as the Apple TV HD, which was announced on September 9, 2015. This model uses a new operating system, tvOS, with an app store, allowing downloads of third-party apps for video, audio, games, and other content. It's powered by a 64-bit Apple A8 chip and adds support for Dolby Digital Plus audio. This model Apple TV's touch remote uses swipe to select features, Siri support, a built-in microphone, volume control over HDMI, CEC, and IR, and an accelerometer. It has 3GB of RAM and 32 and 64GB storage options. Apple 4K TV, first generation. Apple announced the Apple TV 4K, which supports 2160p output, HDR10, Dolby Vision, and includes a faster Apple A10X chip, on September 12, 2017. It has 2GB of RAM, 32 and 64GB of storage options, Dolby Atmos support, and a Siri remote. Apple 4K TV, second generation. Apple announced an updated Apple TV 4K with the A12 Bionic chip on April 20, 2021. It has support for high frame rate HDR, HDMI 2.1, and Wi-Fi 6. It comes with 4GB of SDRAM and 32 and 64GB of storage options. Its HDMI port supports ARC and eARC, which allow other sources plugged into the television to output audio through Apple TV, including to AirPlay speakers. It also has the ability to pair with the ambient light sensor on iPhones with Face ID to optimize its color output. The model also comes with a thicker, redesigned Siri remote with a circular touchpad with navigational buttons, as well as power and mute buttons. Apple 4K TV, 3rd generation. Apple announced an updated Apple TV 4K with the A15 Bionic chip on October 18, 2022. A 5-core CPU, 1 high-efficiency core disabled, and 5-core GPU, reduced weight and dimensions, and support for HDR10+. It comes in 2 configurations, a Wi-Fi-only model with 64GB of storage, and a more expensive 128GB model with Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and a Thread radio. The included Siri remote charges via USB-C instead of Lightning.